G'day guys, Josh Huggett here from Josh Huggett Media. Welcome to Tog Talk, a weekly segment where we talk about all things wedding photography, well just photography in general really, and we answer your questions. This week we're talking to Justin Benson from Aftershoot, or Justin Benson Photography. He's a wedding photographer for the last 16 years. He takes some of the most ridiculous photos I've ever seen in my entire life. His ability to use off-camera flash, keep his couples comfortable whilst also running such a large company like Aftershoot and helping thousands of photographers is just absolutely next to none. I'm very, very excited for this one. I do know Justin, so we do have a little bit of camaraderie straight out of the gate, but very, very excited for this. We talk a lot about off-camera flash. We talk a lot about like aging out of the industry and do you get too old to become a wedding photographer? And it's great. I think you guys are really, really going to learn a lot from this. So if you'd like, get a cup of coffee, get a Red Bull. Not sponsored by Red Bull, but I would if they let me. Get something and come and have a listen to me and Justin talk all about photography. All right, Justin, welcome to Tog Talk. Just tell me who you are and what you do and why you love flash so much.
Great introduction. So I'm Justin. I'm from Connecticut, and I am a wedding photographer and the co-founder of Aftershoot. So I wear a couple different hats, and I've been a wedding photographer for 16 years now. So absolutely way too old to be doing it still, but still doing it and still love it. And I really love flash because it's unique. It's different.
Do you think this is something that I struggle with a lot? Not flash, because that's easy. it's not. Do you think there is going to be a time that you age out of wedding photography? That's my biggest concern.
So I look at a couple different people that I know in this industry, and there's one who's still throwing it down, and he's probably been a wedding photographer since before I was born. He's still got clients, still loves doing it. I imagine that eventually I will sunset just because the more I do it, the older my body feels the next day. Actually, like I just had a wedding this past weekend. It was like maybe 11 hours and I woke up the next day and I was like, I'm not doing anything today. But just a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be like, I'm going to shoot Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to back to back, and I'll do 12 hours each day and no problem, wake up. And, I think our bodies, once you hit like 35, your body just kind of it rapidly deteriorates. I'm 36, so it's 1 year in and I feel like I'm 20 years older than I was 2 years ago.
Even now, I shoot a wedding and then I wake up sore because it is entirely my fault because I don't wear camera straps. I use really big cameras and I just kind of hold them all day. And then I use Canon lenses, which are also just stupidly heavy. Like the R3 with my 85 1.2 or the 50 1.2 is like 4.5 kilos. And yeah. I don't use a strap, so I'll hold it up like this all day. And they're like, why are my hands and wrists so sore? Like, what's going on? I don't know. But then, I've told myself I'm not doing triple headers anymore. But then I see 2 in my calendar and I'm like, oh, I could do a triple. I feel like it's a brag. And then I'm like, wow, maybe I could book in 4. Let's just get a Monday. Yeah. Part of it, the one thing I have never done in wedding photography, actually there's a lot I haven't done in wedding photography, but the one thing I do want to do is 5 in a row. Like a normal person's working week. When you had real jobs and we didn't work for just one day?
Don't do it. No, do not recommend. I did it once. So back during the pandemic reschedule season, I had a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I had the Tuesday and Wednesday off, and then I went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday because it was a holiday weekend. So I had the 5. I did 4 and then 5. It was probably the worst week of my life. I kind of was just like, where am I? What am I doing? Why am I alive?
Yeah. It's this little thing that I want to tick in the back of my head. I'm like, yeah, I can still do a real job. I can go out. Because now I complain about being tired after working 10 hours in one day, but then somebody will comment on Instagram you don't even have a real job.
I feel like you're insulting everybody by saying I want to do a real job. 5 days? You still have work to do outside of shooting.
Yeah, but this isn't a real job, is it? It's not
It's
the way I try to explain. I hear my friends talking about office jobs and sitting in an office all day, and I'm like, that's a real job. we really just hang out. I mean, we do lots of work. We work very, very hard. After shoot and stuff does make that far, far easier. And outsourcing, which is what I'm a big advocate for, is outsourcing as much as physically possible so you can focus on the things that matter. But the people that are still doing everything themselves, that's real work. But I got rid of all of that, so now I just kind of muck around.
Created quite the lifestyle. I mean, it isn't a real job in the sense that there's not necessarily a schedule, right? Like you can create your own schedule. Like in my prime younger years, my days were filled with dilly-dallying, and my nights was editing and doing all the stuff, right? So I didn't have a job, like a 9-to-5 job. It wasn't an office job. If I was meeting my deadlines, it was fine. I could take random days off whenever I wanted. So you're right. It's I don't think any of us could really go back to an office job once you've created this kind of life for yourself.
I reckon there'd also be a whole this has gone completely off the rails from what I wanted to talk about, but that's okay. I feel like there would be a complete subculture of people that would almost want that 9-to-5 again. Like it's so like rigid, whereas now, especially if you're not used to it or you're not able to kind of like create that sort of lifestyle that you want, you just kind of float. Like you shoot weddings on the weekends and then, you know, you have to do the editing, but maybe you're not, you know, ready to kind of do it right now. Whereas if you're a 9-to-5, some people might be like, yeah, I just want to go back. Like I sometimes dream about just going 9-to-5, going in, doing the bare minimum.
You don't remember what it was like. That's why that is. You don't remember what a 9-to-5 is like because it's.
But I also don't remember what Saturday is. I can't remember the last time I had a Saturday.
That's a choice you made. There's something I learned a lot from the pandemic was the balance. I think so many of us, we had that time where it was like, oh goodness, like no weddings happening. I have Saturdays and Sundays and I have all sorts of days off. And then as we went back to it, it was like, oh no, I have no days off. This is the worst. And then that actually set me on a trajectory of saying, okay, I'm going to not take as many weddings. You won't find a triple header, and you'll rarely find a double header anymore for me. I'd rather charge a little bit more and take the gamble on that and just devote the one day, whether it's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. It's just the one. So no matter what, I still have another day that weekend because things happen. I mean, you know, up in my corner of the state, there's like we have all the fairs this time of year. So it's like, go look at, you know, who grew the biggest pumpkin and that sort of fun stuff. And I want to bring my kids to go do that, and I never could before. And since I started doing this, I always have one day each weekend, so no matter what, I can make it to a fair. I can bring them somewhere, we can go and experience something. So I made that active decision. But it's hard. I mean, it was very hard to turn down money too. Like I think that was my biggest thing when I was getting the triples. It was because I'd book Friday, I'd book Sunday, or I'd book Friday and Saturday, and then that last inquiry came to make it the triple, and I'd be like, that's some nice money. Yeah, I'll entertain it. And then it's like, yeah, my weekend's shot already anyways, I'll just do it, right?
I had the opposite during COVID to what you just explained. Quite literally the exact opposite to what you just said. I remember waking up and just going, oh wow, like I've just lost all of my income. I've lost everything because I still had a full-time job at the time. We were selling cars, and then we lost all of our commissions. We lost everything. We were on our base wage, and that was like $400 a week, $500 a week. And I remember sitting outside, and I sat down at the table and I wrote out all of our expenses just for the week, just like bills, mortgage, the car loan we had, wrote it all down. And then I was like, yeah, fuck. We physically can't afford to live on just this base wage. And then I lost all of my weddings. So many people had paid in advance and asked for their money back. So I was out of pocket like 10 grand, and then I'd lost all of my income. And then I remember when they turned weddings back on, I was like, fuck that. This is never happening again. And I'm still stuck in this mindset of like, I will take on so many more weddings than I probably should because I don't ever want to be sitting on my outdoor table being like, oh yeah, no, hey babe, we can't afford to live. It's wild. Yeah. And I'm still trying to change my mind.
Yeah, and you won't, right? I mean, that's the thing there when you have that kind of like life or death experience. I mean, for me, I got extremely lucky. I think I only had to refund like one or two people. I was very, very quick to it. I wrote out my email and just kind of addressed it and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. You can reschedule as many times as you want. You won't pay anything extra, but we did commit this date, that sort of thing, and we don't know when it's going to open. So when it does open, if your date is open and you can do it and you've canceled, then we're out because we could still rebook stuff. Other people are rescheduling to that time too, so got to make a call." And so, yeah, most people were pretty laid back. So it didn't really, it was terrible because there was like a few months where we had no money coming in, but then it started. Then once they turned the switch, at least opened it up a little bit, we started booking again and having weddings and having money again. But I feel that, right? I think that so many of us are tied in this position where this is your livelihood, and like that's a gamble, right? If you're taking less weddings, you're definitely gambling your future. And you're young, you can do it. I wouldn't change a thing. I had in most weddings I did in a year by myself was 84. I don't have associates or anything, so that was the most I ever did. And that 84 year was so terrible. I was so burnt out, but I would do it again, right? Because I know that all of those decisions led to the financial path where I had that freedom. I was able to pay everything, and I didn't have to feel afraid.
I'm halfway through my biggest year of 75, and I'm wishing it was the end of my busiest year of 75. I've got so much more to go. And like, the beginning of next year doesn't look any better, but we have started trying. I've started attempting to slow things down. I've told myself I'm only taking on 30 weddings a year now. In saying that, as of, what is it now? The 18th of September 2024, I've currently got 20 booked for 2026. So technically I'm only allowed to book 10 more. But I've got some good leads in there, so I don't know.
I mean, listen, 30's kind of a small number. Like in my book, I've always looked at it that way. 30 is like, I know some people are like, yeah, 30's that's like a real busy wedding season for me. But to me, it's you got to hit like 50. That's like.
Well, see, my plan was mentally 30, more realistically like 60. That's probably where it'll land.
Yeah, 50, done.
Yeah, because because my goal this year was to hit 100 for the company, so because we can shoot multiple at a time, and we're on 128. And I was like, cool, that's pretty good. I'm really happy. I hit my goal. And then it was the Peru trip that completely changed my entire mind. Also, Americans need to start hosting wedding photography conventions and photography conventions outside of the Australian peak season, because it's every single thing like Shutterfest, WPPI, all of these big conventions are all on like the busiest weekends of the year here. So it's a real like, do you gamble?
Yeah, those are like the final time, or that's our worst season, right? North America, that's it. I have, generally speaking, the most weddings I've ever booked in a February was one.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's why it ends up being the more
that's our
season here.
June for the last like June/July. We go from shooting like 30-35 weddings a month to one, maybe none. Yeah. Currently next year I have no weddings in June. So I might be in the snow or something, doing something cool. Back to aging out. My biggest concern, way back to what we were talking about 10 minutes ago. My fear is these newer generations, and it might work for you because you're such an artist with your photos, with all your flash, and you create those big, like, larger photos. But whereas I come from like a more personality-based, making people feel comfortable, my fear is that as I get a bit older and I turn 40, maybe even 50, I don't know if they're going to want me coming in calling their mum a fuckhead and like being this lively, then my fear is 20, 23, 24, 25-year-olds aren't going to really want someone as old as their parents coming in and like doing those more intimate, like getting ready photos, boys getting ready photos, like doing that more rambunctious sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's super hard to predict. You never know, because you could totally potentially just be that cool old dude that like calls people fuckers all the time, right? But
You did it.
you could also
You
just
said a
come off
cuss
as
word, Justin. Good boy.
oh sorry I'm sorry censor
Oh my god.
that. Or you could be the crotchety old man that's like cursing at everybody, right? So I think that one of the skill sets that I've always tried to do, because now I'm running into it, right? Like I'm starting to book these 23, 24-year-old couples, and I'm not really old, but I'm older enough than them where like they definitely don't look at me like, hey, you're my age. They're like, oh, that's that old guy. But having it's comfort, right? So you're good at making people comfortable. I do a very similar thing with my couples, and I don't swear at them, but I make lots of wee
You
wee
said
jokes.
PP in the bum
Yeah.
bum or whatever it was.
Yeah, wee wee. Yeah, put your wee
Wee
wee.
wee.
So I do make those kind of like, a little bit immature, that sort of thing. But I make them feel comfortable, but I also have a skill set. And that's really why I try and harness those like flashy, gorgeous images. And now if you look at my work or my Instagram or whatever it is, you're going to see a lot of those. But I don't do a lot of them on the wedding day. My couples know that. I show them galleries. They see a lot of natural light, like stuff where it's just people laughing and having fun and feeling very candid. But they know that they're going to get a photo that they couldn't get anywhere else, at least once or twice, right? So whether it's sunset or it's a night shot or something, they're going to get something that they know is different than what anyone else is going to give them, and that's what really drives them to me. That's why I showcase that so much, because that's really like, they're like, oh, I love that venue. I've never seen it photographed like that, and that's where my wedding is, so I want that photo. And it really it helps me a lot, because you are going to be competing for other Gen Z photographers that are, they're going to probably be funnier than you, because they're going to be like, doing skibbity and Riz.
Yeah,
and,
what's a skibbity? I was trying to figure this out on the weekend. No cap, no lie. I was trying to figure it out.
No cap is gone, man. That's old.
Oh,
That's not even current anymore.
I
That's
just learned it on the weekend. I thought I was in.
It's going so fast. The terminology, all of the things, like how they communicate with each other, they're just moving quicker than we ever did. And I think that's something that's going to have a negative impact on us, because we won't be able to be current. It's very easy to kind of be that old guy. Like if you went and started talking to your Gen Z couples and be like, yeah, I'll be the best photographer, no cap. They'll be like, this guy got it out.
What a loser!
Yeah. Oh, sorry, we're not available to have our wedding the day that you're available.
Yeah, I'm actually busy that day. We got to get married. It's
we
this
gotta
whole
get married
thing.
that day. We can't hire you. Sorry.
Yeah, my uncle called and he's going to take the photos for us. No cap, old man.
No cap, old man. That's the thing, is that we can't keep up with it, right? There's no way to keep up with it. So you have to be able to differentiate yourself and be someone that's of interest to them. You'll also form a lot of bonds, right? And that's like one of the most important things, your personality, the bonds you create, the people you interact with. My wedding this past weekend, I shot the bride's brother's wedding 9 years ago. So from 9 years, they knew I was going to be their photographer. I mean, she wasn't even with him with her fiance at that point. But as soon as she got engaged, I was the first person she called. She said, "Oh, I had such a great time. You made such a great experience." So you'll have legacy customers. You'll always have those people who are just like, "Oh yeah, your photographer was the funniest ever, and the photos were incredible." So you'll still just keep booking through that. But at the same time, yeah, eventually you're gonna lose out to newer photographers.
I'm always very interested to figure out how many of those, like, you get those comments like, "Oh, you're when I get engaged, you're going to be my photographer." I want to find a way to track how many of those people actually come through, because I get those comments a lot, because we get like pretty viral. We get people like, "Oh, as soon as I get engaged, like I'm going to be your photographer." I don't think that number would be very high.
It's actually, I don't think it's very high. I do think that it is the couples there's going to be couples that you have that have a lot of younger friends who are going to get married over the next 2 to 3 years. And there's a couple of things that really set you apart. So one of the things that I do, I call them grip and grins, but like we just go around during dinner to the table, anyone who's together. I usually try and crack a couple jokes, get them to know me, because it's giving me a one-on-one interaction with a couple. So I'm just saying, hey, like, do you guys know each other? Oh, that's a weird place for a first date. Ching, right? And then they have an interaction. They say, oh, that's funny. And I can tell you, so many people come into my inquiries and they say, hey, you shot this person's wedding that I was at. You took a picture of us. It was awesome. You know, we'd like to talk to you. And so that's just a way that you can market yourself without having to, you don't have to go hand out business cards. The minute you post that sneak peek online and the couples see it and they share it, they're going to know you're the photographer. They might like your page or follow you because they had that good experience with you. But the ones who are like, oh yeah, your photos are beautiful, I'm going to hire you, they're never going to follow up with you. They just saw a picture you took and that's all they saw. But they never took that action to follow you or get behind you or like your work or see your internet personality, that sort of things. They just saw a pretty photo and said, yeah, that's a pretty photo.
I find that there's this weird thing that happens. Maybe it's just Australia, but maybe I'm pretty sure it'll be universal, where people are like less inclined to hire you because you shot someone else's wedding. I've had people like inquire with me, be like, we love your photos, we love everything you want, but my partner doesn't want to have the same photographer as his brother, or like there's this weird, like, you can't do the same thing. Like, you have to hire someone else because of something else. Maybe it's because my photos are shit, but, like, there could be this whole... They're like, you know, they don't want to have the same photographer, or... I don't know. It's just... I've had it maybe 6 or 7 times. So, actually, in saying that out loud, it's probably not that high of a number, but it's always in the back of my head, like... I
won't not experience that.
Yeah, but you're a really good photographer, Justin.
I've had the opposite. No, it's not even that. I think that if your clients have a really good experience, if the parents of the couple have a really good experience, like I'm trying just making them comfortable, making them laugh, making everybody feel like a family. It's very easy for them to point and say, "Yep, get that guy," because there's lots of I have lots of family. I even have a couple. I shot a wedding. Gotta be probably 8 or 9 years ago. I shot a wedding and they found me through a friend of a friend or something, and that family, I've done the 3 daughters' weddings and they've all just done the exact same thing over and over again, to the T. Like, really? The same venue, the same DJ, same everything, because the first one was so good and the photos were like top tier. Like, I was super proud of those photos back then. It was perfect. And they're like, we want to replicate everything that happened with the other children. And the parents loved it. The parents are like, yeah, you got to hire him. And it just kept going. It's a waterfall effect. This couple, like I said, actually the couple from this past weekend, it was the sister of the groom from a wedding 9 years ago, but I also did the brother's wedding 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So that family, and they know me. Like, I walked in the door and I was like, oh, look, there's my photo, there's my photo, there's my photo. I was at the parents' house. Like, they loved the stuff. They knew who I was. They had that relationship.
Do you find, this is nothing to do with what I was about to talk about, but you said going into people's houses. Do you find that when you go into someone's house after a wedding, especially like this, that they print photos that you would never print in your entire life? Every time I go to a wedding, like I go to someone's house after shooting their engagement shoot, and like, because I deliver photos within photos, so like if there's a photo of the couple, I'll deliver like 2 to 3 of a very similar thing, so they can, you know, maybe their head's like this to this, and it's always the ones that I'm like, no, I'll send it just in case. That's the one that's on the biggest canvas in their house. And then like we go to the I remember a wedding, and I accidentally took a blurry photo. Because I don't take any blurry photos. I spent too much money on my lenses to take blurry photos. I took one photo where the couple was out of focus and the background was in focus of like the beach, and it was a black and white photo. And I was like, ugh, I'll send it. I'll send this one through. No. Get to the fucking wedding. Their seating chart, it's like, this is really good for an audio-based platform, but it's like this big. Like, huge. This huge print, and they've printed the over the top, and I'm like, fucking hell, man. Like, I'm going to have to change the photos I take. And then you go to, like, people's houses, and just, like, the weirdest photo that I would never print. It's probably one of my least favourite photos from the gallery. That's the biggest one. And it really humbles me that, like, I know nothing about, like, I know what a good photo is. I know from a photographer's perspective what makes a good photo, like it's in, rule of thirds or whatever, and it's, composition's really good. But at the end of the day, like, a couple's going to pick something completely different if it invokes a different sort of emotion to them.
It's definitely going to vary, right? And I think one of the things that I do when I'm particularly on like an engagement session, I'm making sure that I'm communicating with them the whole time, right? So I'm explaining to them like why we're doing things. I'm a lot more pose based, so I like to set them up in poses, and then I ask them to bump wee-wees and things like that to make them laugh. But I'm very much so aware of their insecurities. Like the first thing I do is I say, okay, we're gonna stand right here, we're gonna hold hands, I'm gonna just take a test shot, and you're gonna tell me what you don't like about yourself when you see it. And I will have my opinion of it, but then when I show them the back of camera that it's a touch screen, I say zoom in, tell me everything you hate. And surprisingly, a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. I just, watch out for my double chin, or watch out for my nose because it's got like a big hook in it, or they have something that they're very aware of, and if you make sure that you're aware of it early on, you can just avoid it, and then you're always going to hit it on the head, right? The little micro expressions and that sort of stuff. Usually I'll ask them to, like, the groom is like rarely cares, right? The groom's just like, yeah, I'm taking photos, this sucks. But like I'll ask the bride, I'm like, is that his smile? Like, is that what you want him to look like? And usually they're like, no, that's not it at all. And then I'll go back and I'll crack a wee joke, and I'll show him again, and I'll be like, is that his smile? And they're like, no, that's too much. He's laughing. I like that photo a lot. And then I say, okay, that's what I need to strive for, but I also need to be aware, like, when they're looking at the camera, he should not look like that. So I make those kind of active decisions as I get started, so that I don't have those things where I'm like, because it rarely happens. I don't think I've ever walked in and been like, ooh, they chose that photo.
So mental to me that you show them the back of the camera and you're like, what do you hate about this photo? Because I do the exact opposite. Because all the people that book me, we're not really pose based. We're more about they don't want to have their photo taken at all. So I'll show them the back of the camera, but everything I do when I show them the back of the camera is to reaffirm how good they are and how good they look, even though because it's the first thing they say when they get out of the car park. We're like, oh, we don't really know what to do. We don't want to, or we don't really like having our photo taken. Like, good luck getting him to smile. So everything that I'm doing is like quite literally the opposite of what you just said, where I'm like, look at how good you are. Look at how good you look. Look at how good this smile is. Look at how beautiful it is. Ah, cool, we can let's move it so your hair's not blowing this way. But like, I feel like if I showed somebody the back of my camera and said, what don't you like, I would just have an aneurysm and be done.
It's a gamble.
Yeah.
Once I had somebody who was just like, oh. And I was like, oh man, I need to go climb a tree and hang myself. But it was her chin. And that was something that she had a double chin no matter what you did. Right? It was very, very hard to not give her a double chin. So what that did for me was make me very, very aware of how I posed her and how I could lean her into the camera and how I could get higher and different tricks and things that I could do to reduce the overall look. But that was probably the only time, because they'll usually say like, hey, I'm self-conscious about this. Right? Because that's kind of what I'm asking. I'm not saying, hey, like, I actually do say, like, hey, rip this photo apart. But I'm really saying, like, hey, rip this photo apart. Tell me, like, do you like your smiles? Is your hair right? Is your body positioning? Like, what sort of things don't you like that I can try and make better? And a lot of times they don't have a lot to say. Because, I shoot at 200 millimeters, so I'm, like, compressing the crap out of everything. That first shot is 200 millimeters, far, far away, super compressed. And I'll tell them, hey, I've got some things I'm going to tweak on this photo, but just tell me what you think. And yeah, a lot of times they'll even be like, no, this is perfect. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to do it again, but I'm just going to like turn your body a little bit this way or bring your chin a little bit like this. But yeah, it's a gamble, but it works for me.
That's fucking mental. Do you, as a flashy boy, do you bring a flash to an engagement shoot?
Yes, absolutely.
Really? Yep. I was watching one of our friends' videos the other day, and I was like, I don't understand why you need two people at an engagement shoot. I mean, you use tripods.
I'm by myself, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm getting, at the moment, one of my videos is going viral on Facebook again in the American community, because they're always the ones that have the most to say, about a photo that I took at sunset. And it's just like a little photo that I took. It's just sunset of the couple, their arms over each other's shoulders, and like, it was a spur of the moment thing, because like I leave my couples for the last 5 minutes. Like, hey, watch the last bit of your sunset. I'm just going to get back here. And I just snapped a little photo, and you can see the orange in the sky, but it's not that off-camera flash, deep, the look, deep blue. And they're fucking blowing it up like, oh, he should have had an off-camera flash and somebody standing there with this thing, and that way they'd be exposed. And I'm like, well, that's not the photo. One, the video is about showing that we give people 5 minutes at sunset, but also like, that's such a look. Those off-camera, I tried it as soon as we got back from Peru and the wedding season kicked off here. I was like, I'll just fucking give it a go. And then I very quickly realized that I don't take those. So you bring a tripod.
Yeah,
it's a light stand, isn't it?
I have a stand, and I don't use it a lot, right? So that's the important thing for me as a flash photographer. I would say probably about 80% natural light and then 10% off-camera flash, right? So I just want to create a few images that I myself look at and have to go, that's something that you have to think about how that was done. Or if obviously at a reception I need flash all the time, but when it comes to like just doing couples portraits, unless I'm in a really desperate position. So this past weekend's wedding, no clouds in the sky, at a beach. If I was just using without off-camera flash, they would look like they were on a white backdrop, because the sun was hitting the water at just the right angle, going straight into the lens, like would have never been able to tell where you were. And if I looked the other way so that they were facing towards the sun, you would just see a bunch of beach umbrellas and old people in Speedos. So I was like, all right, I've got one option here, and I took out the off-camera flash and I used it for pretty much everything bridal party. I because of desperation. But if it weren't for that, I would absolutely try and find every bit and piece of natural light that I could use, and then wait for that perfect moment where I can take a picture that just makes you go, how was that created? Right? And that's the goal, is just that one photo that like they're gonna hang it on their wall. I know it. They're gonna be like, oh, that's a wide shot, a 20 by 30 of it, where we're just like a little illuminated pop of light in front of the beach with the beautiful sunset. That's what I'm striving for, because I want that for them. But I'm not going to use it for the majority of stuff. So engagement session, I do schedule them an hour before sunset, or an hour and a half before sunset. So the last 10 minutes, that's when I'm taking out that flash usually, or if there's like cool clouds or something that I want to emphasize. But other than that, it's just hanging in my backpack the whole time.
So for those of you that don't know, which is probably most people, but when I went to Peru, Justin ran 2 classes, one on flash photography, one on, well, it's still kind of flash photography, wasn't it, when we were out on the thing. I learned and now implement so much from those 2. I genuinely believe I learned more in those 2 classes than I have learned in so long on other stuff. And like, even just like composition from when you were, and I tried to replicate it, but it's a bit hard here, because you had that big willow tree and you had them really small in the corner. I reckon it was like 2 weddings after Peru. Maybe it was the wedding after Peru. I took a very, very similar photo, but we had a gum tree because it's Australia, and there was like this big branch, and I was like, yeah, no, Justin took that photo and that was sick. But I didn't use the flash, and I just used natural light. And I was like, yeah, that was sick. And now, just 2 days ago when I was on the mountain, I was like, fuck, you know what would be good? I could get to like F22 and that sun would be a star in the background, like on Justin's photos. And there we go. Straight, because I shoot wide open like pretty much all day, because I don't use flash. If I'm in, I want to be able to shoot indoor, outdoor. Sometimes I'll stop up to like 2.8, but like most of my photos are wide open. And then I was like, no, Josh, just go to 22. And then I realized how damaged my lens is, because there was all these spots everywhere. But
yeah. No, that's your sensor. That's your sensor. I'm the same, so I do not clean my sensors. So yeah, definitely. Yeah,
that's fine.
You're gonna
go. If I shoot wide open, you never see it.
Yeah, clean your sensor if you're going to F22, or just and generative fill it out.
Yeah, well that's it. I just literally just got the brush tool, done. And I'm also not very nice to my sensors at all, or my cameras.
So after Peru, I went and looked at those photos, or in Peru, the photos we took at that thing, all my like example photos that I was doing for everyone, and I was like, man, there's a Peruvian condor in these photos. But it was just like a piece of hair that was on my sensor.
Well, I've always thought, because Canon says it cleans my sensor for me.
Yeah,
but it
not
doesn't.
really. You gotta like, you gotta open it up and like, not open it, but like just take your lens off, and there's like a swab. It's a whole thing, but it's easy. I've done it before, but I don't care to do it. So
I'm more inclined to just break my sensor, send it back in for warranty, and get a new one, and then I won't have to clean it.
Easier.
Do you may know this. This has again nothing to do with what they're talking about. When you break a sensor on your camera and you send it in, so like a shutter. So you break a shutter on your camera. Am I now back to essentially zero? So I get another 500 clicks out of my shutter? 500,000?
Yes. I don't know. I shoot Nikon, so I've never had a shutter fail.
Well, Canon we do. So,
but I would say that yes, that shutter resets it back to zero, so you're good to go.
That means I just can't buy another camera. I saw it and I was like, oh, I'm at 50% of the shutter life. Like, great, I get to buy a new camera soon. And then it broke, and then they sent it back. So I'm like, oh, 50%? Fuck. Like, I was because apparently the R3 is rated to 500,000 clicks, and I was at like 260,000. But also like,
I'm a gambler. All mine are rated to like 150, 200, because I get the cheapest ones. Like, for a wedding photographer, I'm like, yeah, like that's the cheapest camera. That's a full frame mirrorless. I'm doing it. So I'm shooting on like a $900 body, but it's rated for like 150 or 200,000. I'm at like 450 right now on the original shutter. So I'm like, one of these days it's just gonna crap out on me in the middle of the wedding. But I got a backup, so it's fine.
Well, that's it. And so many people don't shoot with backup. This is why, like, when mine was breaking, I'm pretty sure it broke because I dropped it out of my car. But I remember shooting the wedding, and I was like, what's going on? And it got progressively worse over like 3 or 4 weddings, where I would be shooting, and then it would be like, error, stop the camera from shooting or whatever. And I was like, oh, fuck. Maybe it's my lens, because my lens is real crunchy when it focuses, because I also dropped that out of the car. So it does make a grinding noise, and I was like, oh, my lens is broken. That's fine. I'll fix it. And then I changed lens, and it kept doing the issue. And I was in the middle of golden hour, like smack bang in the middle of golden hour. But it was so easy because I was able to just like get my other camera out and keep shooting. But there are so many people that are like, oh, I've got 2 SD cards in my camera, like I can shoot on one camera. It's like, it's not the SD card that's going to be... I've never had an SD, touch as much wood as possible. I've never had a card fail, but it's everything else that keeps you safe.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to have everything in a row. So actually in Peru, I shot with you, Kayla and Rick's wedding. I don't know if you remember that, but I dropped my 24-70 out of my bag, and it cracked the lens and everything, and it was a disaster, which I'll resume that story in a second. But I didn't have any backup stuff because it's not it was just like a, I had like a second camera body or whatever, but I didn't have a whole, so I actually had to call my second shooter from the US who was there, and I was like, give me your 24-70. But that's the whole, like, I have a 24-70. That's my prime, lens that I use, 24-70, 70-200. But I also have just in my bag the 85-1.8 and the 28 2.8, so that if either of those lenses fails, because it's happened before. I mean, like, I dropped one at a wedding and it just stopped zooming, and I was like, all right, it's stuck at 24, which was fine. I just used it because but I had that other lens in my bag, because you can't correct that. And then what are you going to do? Not shoot any wide shots or anything for the whole day? You're going to be stuck on a 70-200 or vice versa?
So you shoot zoom lenses all day?
Yes, sir.
So 24-70 and then 70-200 all day, every day?
All day, every day. Yep.
How many people have bullied you about that?
Nobody.
Really?
Yeah. So listen, the 70-200, I think it is probably one of the best secrets of pros in the world. And I say that only because a lot of people drift towards my work, a lot of clients drift towards my work because they don't see that from like an 85 1.4. They see all the out of focus stuff in the background, but they don't see the compression.
Yeah.
When you're at 200, you're literally squishing them against the background, versus the 85, you're just distancing them from the background through the bokeh. But by having them squished into it, I mean, you're going to take somebody who's a little bit heavier and you're going to slim them down because you're flattening out their body. You know, you're giving them a different look. So a lot of clients, they can't figure out how to iterate that, but that's what they're talking about. And they're saying, I love the look of your photos, and I couldn't find other people doing it, because I think a lot of people get hooked on that. Like, I need a 1.4 lens to create that bokeh effect, but I get the same effect. It's just they're a lot flatter and more compressed.
What would you... So I'm presuming you'd be using 24 to 70 for what, like 85% of the day, and then 70 to 200 for the other 15?
It's honestly, it's about 50-50. So
when are you? Yeah. How big are these fucking rooms that you're in that you can use a 70 to 200?
Or not? They don't have to be that big. I mean, so getting ready is, I don't even take the 70 to 200 out.
Yeah, okay.
Basically stays there. I'm just 24 to 70. I'll do all my getting ready photos like that, and then as soon as I'm outside for anything that's 70 to 200, I've got enough space to do it, so I'll immediately take it out and start using it. And I'll shoot family portraits, bridal party if I can fit them. Like, if I've got, that's a little bit harder. Got to go pretty far back to get them, but yeah. I'll try and use 70 to 200 for that, because again, compressing them. If I'm at a wider angle with a 20-person wide or 15-person wide bridal party, they're going to be just a slim sliver, and the background's going to be really distant. But when I'm at 200 or 135, or if I'm really compressing them in, they become a more prominent piece of the frame. So it's a different look, and I think it's really hard to explain if you're not using both lenses simultaneously. Like, I'll do a 24 to 70 shot, and then I'll be like, ugh, something's not right. Like, they just don't feel like they're a part of the picture. And I'll run back and like crawl through a bush and be like, yes, I can squeeze them in at 175, I guess. And I'll get them in there, and I go, that's the one. It's perfect. So yeah, I'll anytime I can do 70 to 200 for any sort of I mean, all of their portraits are 70 to 200, or the 14 to 24. So I love getting really wide and close to them, and then showcasing them in like this big grand stature. So I'll get like low on the ground and look up at them and ask them to lean into the camera a little bit and kind of get some sky and different things. But then the reception, for all the formal stuff, it's 70 to 200. So I'll do 24 to 70 quite a bit because I'm close to the dance floor. But then because I'm using like 4 off-camera flashes all around the room, what I do is I walk around the tables and I look for little pockets. And I'll find this little like sliver of space where I can shoot through maybe some glasses or, like on the table or some candles or something. And I can really compress and make a really cool, interesting photo through composition. So I love using both. And then dancing, I'm on the 14 to 24 the whole time. Like, I'm on the dance floor. I'm holding the camera next to my face, super wide, 14 millimeters, and I'm just making goofy faces at the people and like making them feel like I'm having fun. Well, I am having fun, but like making them feel like we're interacting on the dance floor together instead of just looking at a camera. Because if I hold the camera up, they're gonna look at the camera and go, oh. But if I hold the camera next to my face and I dance and I laugh, they're looking at their friends, they're looking at me. I'll take a couple photos, and one of them's gonna be them laughing, having fun.
So with your dance floor, because again, receptions, I don't use a flash at all for pretty much everything. I'll switch to, depending on how big the area is, because normally we've got the, there's lights hanging from the roof and then some candles and stuff inside, so it's all like nice and warm and kind of moody. So that's when I move to the 85 1.2, and I'll kind of like sit back, and then I've got one of my buttons set to crop mode, so I can crop in by 1.6. So then I can just like, I'll sit there and snipe and try to get like a candle lit, it's an audio platform. I was going to bring a light up to my face, but like, like them sitting there and having like a natural laugh. And I try to make my galleries, it's so crazy how everybody we can do like the same job, but do it completely differently. I've just recently bought the 15 to 35. Fucking love it. So much fun.
That's a good line.
So much fun. But I'll sit on like a 51.2 at the getting ready, and I'll just kind of like snipe and try to get those candid moments. And then I don't like using a flash at the reception because I don't like people knowing that I'm taking photos because I feel like, you know, you feel the ping, boom, boom, and then I feel like people get more, you know. But I guess if you're doing it all day, like all reception, they become a little bit less, you know, aware.
So first dance, I always do it to isolate them a little bit. So
I do it for first dance too.
Yeah,
I normally chuck it behind them.
Yeah, I'll have off-camera flash for the first dance, the parent dances, that sort of stuff. The toasts, I don't want a ton of pictures of the toast, so I have one off-camera flash, and I'll have one on camera, and I'll just go in and find again those interesting angles. You know, get them laughing, get the speaker just not in the middle of a sentence, and then I'm good. I don't need to take a bunch more because I don't need 500 photos of them laughing.
Yeah.
I just need.
I want to know when we're allowed to not take photos of the speeches anymore. I find it so weird when people pay me to stay longer to take photos of the speeches, and I'm like, what the fuck are you going to do with a photo of this?
Yeah.
Well, after you get a couple of photos of people laughing, that could have been taken at the speeches.
Literally waiting for the speaker to make a joke that they think is funny, and then I'll take that photo. And then that's the only one I need. That's it. Then I move
Two photos.
On. Yep.
Couple of speakers.
And then the dancing, it's an on-camera flash, no off-camera flash for dancing. It's not worth it.
That was next.
On-camera flash because I like the idea of having some play with it. So like I'll do like the whirly guys where you twist the camera really quick and get some motion drag. Yeah, I call it a whirly guy. But yeah, I'll do like some shutter drag and that sort of stuff. And I like having that fun, but I also like to be able to control my environment a lot more because like a lot of times the background isn't great, so I don't want to see like the servers clearing the tables in the background. I don't want to see, so I'd rather have the flash illuminate my immediate subject matter, and then everything else kind of falls dark, and then like maybe catch some up lighting and that sort of stuff. But trying to find the balance, especially if the dance floor is not populated, it looks a lot better if I'm on a wide angle really close to them and everything else looks dark, so you can't see that there's nobody dancing, you just see the three people that are dancing.
That's normally when I move to like a 50 and I just kind of use the bokeh to realize that there's nobody there. So when you're shooting dance floor, because I think flash is everybody's biggest fear when it comes to photography, and it's the most common questions that we get. Even me, people are like, what are your flash settings? And I'm like, none. They are off. The flash setting is in my camera bag. So you're shooting dance floor. Typically you're at what? 2.8 f4?
2.8, yep.
2.8. And then you go all manual settings for flash?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll always set up everything manual. The only way to have real control of it, to me, is just having it manual, because it makes it so much easier because you know where you are. If it's too bright, you turn the power down. That's easy.
I did that too recently. You just triggered me. I remember shooting off-camera flash the other day. What was I doing? I was shooting something off-camera flash, and I was like, fuck, what did Justin say? Sit in the middle. Start in the middle. And I went to like F11 or whatever it was. And then I was like, cool, figure this stuff out. I can't remember exactly what you said because I didn't have my notebook. But I was like, what did Justin say? Tell me that thing. Can you say that thing?
Yeah, so I love to set everything up in the middle. If I'm in a setting where I could have too much light or too little light, I love, like, reception's perfect example. Set your flashes to the middle power. Set everything right in the middle of where you would need to adjust it, so it's easier to adapt. So if my flash power is at 1/32, my ISO is at 1000, and I take my test shot, it's a lot easier to turn the flash power up a little bit or down a little bit. But if I was at like 1.1 power and I had to go all the way to 1/28, I got to change it entirely, and I can't just make small little adjustments. Same with the ISO. I can, if I'm trying to like darken the background a little bit, I can just lower it a touch, or I can raise it up a touch if I want to bring in more of the ambient light. So being in the middle of where you want to be as your first starting point makes it a lot easier just to like make small little tweaks to it and slowly, incrementally get to where you want to go.
I remember I had the flash behind them, and I was like,
and then the daylight stuff, it's the opposite mentality, right? So when you're like competing with the sun, go all out, like make it as dark as you can make it to start with your flash as powerful as it can go, because then all you can do is kind of you can pull back a little bit on your settings to like draw in more of the natural light, or move the flash closer, right? If it's not bright enough, your flash isn't powerful enough, just move it closer. That's your only option. So you aren't fiddling with settings. You're literally just like, is it close enough to them? Are they bright enough? No? Okay, move it even closer.
What was... Now, again, I find that I think about you quite a bit, Justin. I was trying to think the other day what you were saying about gels and how you used a different coloured gel to change the colour of them or change the colour of the sky.
Yes.
What was that rule that you used?
Yeah, so there's two ways to do it. There's 3 techniques I use. So essentially, I hate rescheduling sessions. So if I've got a cloudy day, I would love to still shoot, but I know my couples really want sunset. So one of the tricks you can do is by putting a green gel. So it's the fluorescent gel.
I'm running this down.
Yep. It's the fluorescent gel. By putting that on your flash, anything that the flash hits turns really green. But when you go and correct that later, everything that the flash hits is going to be normal colored, and everything that doesn't get hit by the flash turns purple, because green and purple are opposite on the spectrum. And you can do the same with a color temperature blue gel. So if you have a blue gel on it, and again, these have to be the color temperatures. So if you're using like Magmod, they have like the CTB, and then they have just the one that says blue. So CTB blue is like a color temperature for white balance purposes. Their other one is like a creative one, and it'll look terrible. So the CTB gels, you put a blue one on, and then anything that the flash touches when you actually white balance it later in post, everything's going to turn orange that the flash did not hit. So you can get an orange sky or a purple sky just using that. And then the third trick I do, I actually take the orange gel, the color temperature orange gel, I stick it on the flash, and I'll put it like off in the distance somewhere, and I'll backlight them. Like I make sure, you got to make sure it looks realistic, like find a little pocket where like a sun could be. But when you set that flash up, you crank it to full power, and you just blast them with light from behind. It looks like the sun is poking through the trees and stuff. So I love that trick.
So do you use, so for most of your off-camera stuff, are you using like a V? I use Godox, so like the equivalent of the V1 is the flash that sits on top of your camera. That's the most common flash. That's the only flash that I really bring to wedding days now. I've took the 80-200 out. Are people able to kind of replicate, not all of them, because there's one photo that you have that's stupid with like 18 flashes in it or whatever it was. But are they able to kind of replicate the same sort of things with just like a normal flash that they would have on top of their camera?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the only drawback to it is just the power. So you'll have to get your flash a little bit closer. But yeah, you can totally do it with your regular, like, you know, on-camera hot shoe style flash. You don't have to use the 200 if you don't want to. I like to, personally, because they have a lot more juice, so I can get like a lot more power if I need it. But also, they just last a lot longer when it comes to battery life. So if I'm at a reception,
I noticed that
they can,
on the weekend.
They've got a lot of flash power, so...
I was shooting on the weekend, and I set it up to, I think I was shooting at 1.6. I was getting pretty close to full power on the V1, and I was like, fuck, this would be like half power on the 200. This is like...
Yep.
And then I was like, shoot, I was like, boom, and then I was like, I heated it up too much so that I had to wait, and that's where that, like, I was missing bits.
Yeah, you could be on that 200, you can be at half the power essentially that you would need to be on the V1, and that gives you the ability to have faster recycle times because you have the power, you won't overheat it, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's useful.
I was taking some wild off-camera flash photos, just like on the dance floor. It was just kind of all working because I was lighting up the whole thing. Well, I use it. Everybody seems so shocked when I say that I actually use flash. Everyone's like I have to.
Kind of shocked me.
But like, even now, I'll post a photo online and someone's like, "Oh, that's flash on that photo, Josh." I'm like, "Yeah." If people are dancing on a dance floor and everybody turns the lights down, I have to use a flash. Like, I don't use a flash for 95% of the day, but I still have to use, like, I'm a wedding photographer. I have to use a flash.
You have to know. Like, yeah, you have to be able to. You have to have it in your bag. Like, you can't you can't survive in a situation where you just don't have flash available to you if you need it. There's always going to be cases like there's one venue by me that they do the dance floor out on a patio with a couple of like those light bulby string light things overhead.
Yeah, that's very common here.
No light. You cannot. There's no light. You wouldn't. Natural light just doesn't work. You have to have flash to make it work.
Yeah, most of the venues here in Australia are that, because like we get married here, it's like 40 something, or whatever it is over there, but it's like 44 degrees Australian. And then they're outside, so everything is outside. Speeches, ceremony, reception, you're sitting on long tables outside with those lights hanging over the top, and that's all you've got. You need a flash for that. Like, you can't. Yeah. I find it strange.
You don't have to use it all the time. Like, I don't even use it all the time. I could shoot an entire wedding without ever not using flash, but I don't need to. If I've got good light, I'll use it. But being prepared and knowing how to use it, it's just as important.
We use it much like a veil as our, like, get out of jail card. Whereas if it's, like, really cloudy or it's kind of been raining and stuff and you haven't been able to go out and get your photos, like, you can get some good photos. All you need is that, like, hey, come out onto the road for a second, and I'm just going to put this behind you, and you take that photo and it like lights up the trees and stuff, and they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're like, cool, sick. I got that wow photo.
Honestly, it's kind of a gimmick. I mean, it's not a gimmick, but it's definitely. It's a tool that you can pull out if you know how to use it in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't need to be an award-winning image, but if you can do something that your clients go, and they're gonna love it, right? Like, it's that one backlit shot where it's just, like you said, that's gonna drop their jaws, and they're gonna say, "Oh my goodness, I need this photo printed, or I need to share this with everybody." So
we do that, and I've got a $20 can of magician spray in the back of my car, which is like atmosphere spray, and I'm like, hey, just come stand out here, and then I get like the best man or something to sit on the ground behind them with like 2 cans of spray and just flash.
Yeah,
everybody's happy.
Exactly. You get those nice savior images.
Yeah, it's literally, if you don't have a flash and you need something, it's like a veil. You can have the worst day ever. It can be pouring with rain. Anything can happen. I know you don't do this photo, but like, just getting underneath that veil, you snap a couple of photos. Like, I did a wedding recently.
Don't judge me. I do that photo too.
I thought you said in Peru that you didn't do that photo.
I played with.
I said, we're getting under the veil, and you said, I don't really take that photo.
I do get under. I actually do like to be outside a bit more though, because I like shooting through the veil. But
I normally do that when the videographer jumps in. So I'll jump under, get my photos, and then the videographer will jump under, and then I'll take my photos from the outside so that we're utilizing the time. But we shot a wedding recently where it was raining all day. Literally, I've only ever shot that did stop for like 6 minutes. I've only ever shot one wedding in my entire life where it didn't stop raining literally all day. That was Molly and Will. This was a very, very close second. It stopped raining for like 6 minutes during the reception, and we got some photos outside with the flash and whatever. But we had a veil, so like on the patio out the front, everything around us looked like shit. It was not a very good environment to take photos in, but this is all we had. Under the veil, overexposed it a little bit to blow out the veil, so it was all like kind of white and drew into them. That's their favourite photos. Yep. And it was taken in their front yard under a pergola, like with just... This is the get out of jail free thing.
Orange gel trick to make the fake sun.
Well, they're going to have to buy gels.
Yeah, listen, that... I will send you some photos, but they just one of those things. Next time it rains, I mean, I get it all. We're kind of rainy here in Connecticut, so I get it often, and it's such an easy way. I remember my second shooter. I shot his engagement session and his wedding, but his engagement session, his fiance was from Texas, so she flew all the way out here for their engagement session, and we had one day. And so we went to this beautiful indoor location. It was raining, and then it was kind of just drizzly, and they really wanted photos at this bridge. And I did this, and it doesn't make sense. If you see the photo, you just go, wow, that's stunning. Why are they under an umbrella? But it was raining, and I did that fake sun trick, and it looks like the sun is just peeking through, and the raindrops are falling, and they're under an umbrella. But it's just one of those, like, powerhouse tools that you can just keep in your pocket to kind of save you, right? Like on those days when you don't have sun is my favorite. People say, oh, I love like cloudy days. I hate cloudy days. I love when the sun is out and I've got some challenging lighting or some, you know, unique shadows and different compositions I can play with. So I really love when I have a lot of sun. So on a cloudy day, I'm like, oh, give me the fake sun and I'm going to make some interesting compositions.
I only ask for 6 clouds on a wedding day. That's all I ever really want.
Yeah.
I want like 1 for the getting ready so we can jump outside and we do a champagne pop, but like it's all still nice. Then I want it to be sunny because it's a real catch-22, isn't it? Like you want clouds so that you get like nice even lighting, but it's also a wedding and you're attending that wedding. So you kind of want it to be a nice day. I don't want it to be cold and drizzly. So I just ask for like 1 at the getting readies, maybe 2 during the ceremony, like 1 right at the start of the ceremony when everybody's still really happy and they haven't been standing for 40 minutes. So you're like, that way I can just like 1 cloud, I'll get a photo of the boys, I'll get a photo of the girls, I'll get a photo of the couple, I'll get a photo of the celebrant for her Instagram because I know she's going to fucking email me about it. I get 1 big wide shot and then the cloud can go away and people can sit in the sun and be nice and warm again. And then I'll have 1 for family photo, so it's just nice even lighting, and then maybe 2 during the couple session, and then but other than that I want sun peeking through. That's all I ask for. But it's very hard to...
It's not a big demand at all.
No, 6 clouds, that's not much.
I would rather have sun all day. Give me the harsh, challenging lighting, and it sucks for a ceremony for sure because like there's not much you can do there. But the rest of the time you can have so much more fun, right? Like if you have buildings or you have trees or different things that you can really play with the light and create interesting work. I don't know, it's more fun to me.
As someone that manipulates photos quite a bit using flash, like your fake sun and that sort of stuff, how much post photo shoot manipulation do you do? Are you heavy Photoshop or no Photoshop? Or not no Photoshop, but like little Photoshop?
Try my darndest not to have to do any posts. So I'm really like, the only time I'm going to have to do it is if I need to remove a flash because I did that. And then
you draw the penis, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. You remember, yeah.
I do.
I don't even need to really leave.
I took so much from that class. Much.
Yeah, so I would, if I position the flash right, I don't need to even open up Photoshop for it. I can just clone it out. And then I usually try and do 1 photo where I light the bridal party. Like I pair them off into their like partners and I light them each individually. I always try and do that because it's such a dynamic photo. Each couple has like a really cool light on them, so they'll be flashed. So that one I will Photoshop, but other than that, you will not see me retouching, or I don't even remove exit signs. Like, yeah, that's your venue. Like, they have exit signs.
I pretty much don't do anything at all.
So
what if you're doing one? And I know the photo you're talking about, where you've got like the bridal party set up. And, like they kind of pose off and then you light them. Sandra does it phenomenally.
Yep.
She does such a good job. With that, are you using a soft box? So, I don't know why I made it sound so weird saying soft box, but are you using a soft box, opposed to the hard ones?
Yes. It depends, honestly. I'm one of those people who kind of just does what's easy. So
yeah.
if it's a dark place, a softbox is always a softer, cooler light. And I don't have to worry about like compensating for the sun and stuff. But I'll even do it on like a sunny day, where I just need to like make them pop a little bit. Like they're in the light, but it's a very flat looking image. So I'll bring in some flash so that they just the people stand out of the image a little bit. And in that case, I'll put it like the boob on it, the mag boob.
Yeah. The little thing.
Yeah, the round thing. Yeah.
That little thing. That's one photo I do want to take, is that. I mean, It's not... I probably won't ever post it because I don't want people to start asking me for it, but...
It's a little bit of work in post. It's not hard. Like, you auto-align the layers and then, like, just paint it and stuff, but it does take, like, 10 or 15 minutes. But, yeah, it's one of those ones that, like, it's a standout photo for sure.
I'm trying to think of a venue in Adelaide that it would look really, really good at, but I'm just not...
You know what? If you have some interesting clouds, one of my favorite versions of it, I had this really gothic looking building in the background, so it also played into it, but the clouds were just really like gray and dark, and it was like about to rain or something, and I did it with that, and that photo is just like, whoa, there's just so much mood to it. So yeah, you don't even need any building or anything.
Do you bring out chairs and have people like, if you were to say, because we've got a big, I'm thinking out loud, I've got a big castle in Adelaide called the Manor. It's where I got married myself. Would you bring out like chairs and have them sitting down to get those sort of layers? Like, do you follow Fire and Ice?
Yeah.
And Ice?
Yep.
Like how he does it, like the triangles and it's...
I don't, because I'm lazy, so I'm not going to go get chairs.
That's
if
also
there's a chair
me.
nearby, yeah, totally, I'll do it. But otherwise, I'll just pose them. And one of the things that I do, because I want to maximize every moment, right? So I'm going to set them up in that pose, and I'm going to give them very specific instructions. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to take this photo, don't move, we're going to go flash each one of you. I usually try and like make it somewhat of an innuendo to make them laugh.
Yeah, yep.
But I'm like, yeah,
I got it straight away.
I'm gonna say, hey, Rick, my Rick's gonna go flash you all. So yeah, try and smile, but don't look at Rick when he flashes you. And so yeah, like they'll do that. But then what I'm also going to do, I'm gonna ask them not to move, and I say even when they're done, in case I need to redo anything. But then what I do is I change my settings really quick to go back to natural light. And then I'll say, okay, now I want to do one where you give me your best, like, Zoolander blue steel face, right? Like, whatever you got, just, like, resting bitch face, give it to me. And they do that, and then I'm saying, okay, great, now you guys pose yourselves. So you're going to pose yourselves 3 times, do whatever you want, no sexual harassment. I'm looking at you, Karen. Don't that sort of thing, make them laugh, have some fun.
Yeah.
I'll pose 3 or 4 times, and you can see if the energy's there after like 2 or 3 times and they're like kind of boring. You're just like, yeah, cool, that was great, all right, next. But I'm trying to again maximize, because that's a really cool shot with the individual lighting, but to set all of that up and go through the whole process just to get one photo that maybe they're gonna love,
Yeah.
but if I can maximize it and get like 5 other photos that are worth it to them, then if they don't love that kind of moody, gothic, or cool individually lit photo, they still have some cool ones.
That's how we run pretty much all of our bridal party sessions, is they start, each photo kind of leads into another one. So it's not like, we get them to stand in a line, get that traditional photo. Then we quickly get them to go into boy, girl. And then it's like bumping hips leads into a different photo, which leads into like a big hug, which leads into something else. So that like, you keep the flow of the photo session, and they never get bored, or they're never like waiting around for too long, or like having to rearrange themselves. Like you just keep that momentum and keep that flow. Everybody's in high spirits, and then just as they're at their peak excitement, I stop. I'm like, cool, we're done. Like head back inside, and that way they leave with like, holy fuck, like was that it? We had just so much fun. And in that time, we've got so many photos. We've got all of those poses, like. Mm-hmm. Boy, girl, we've got boys, we've got girls, we've got whatever, but we can do it in like half an hour, like bang, 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 bang. We get all of the candids in between the photos, and then they're done, and they head back, and they're like high spirits, and they always just talk about how much fun they had, rather than like, stand here, guys. Right, let me just bring up the unscripted app, and I'll find out, like, this one, I want to take this one photo. Can you guys...
I do the same ones. Like I have that rhythm, that flow. I do the same bridal party poses generally every time. Like just keep it moving, keep it fast, because your couple's gonna appreciate it. The bridal party's gonna appreciate it. Like nobody wants to. There's really nobody. Like even the brides, they don't want to be standing there for forever taking photos. They're like. The whole time you have to remember, whether you're doing a first look or it's happening during the cocktail hour, the whole time they're thinking, what's happening over there, right? Like I'm taking photos right now, but they're also like, if it's the first look, they're thinking, okay, is my ceremony set up? Is my, are these people arriving? What's going on? They're always thinking about something else. So if you're just tying them up for a long time, they're going to sit there and think more and more, and they're going to have less fun, right? Their end experience is going to be less enjoyable. So the faster you can burn through everything, the happier everyone's going to be.
So we do it over 2 sessions. When we're doing the family photos, I got to start wrapping this up because I got to go to a school tour today. That's how fucking old my daughter is.
Ooh, nice.
We do it over 2 sessions. During the family photos, we get what's called like the clean, stale photos of the bridal party, all together, boys, girls, individuals. they suck. But they're already at their peak boredom of like, we've just done family photos for 20 minutes. Then after that, then we send people back to their cocktail hour to have like a drink and something to eat and just go see your friends and family. And then we bring them out a little bit earlier than golden hour. So just before golden hour kind of starts, we bring the whole bridal party out, and every single one of those photos is just fucking around. It's like the 2 bottles of champagne is the whole bridal party, big champagne pop. Then we do like more messy photos, like throwing people in the air. Because at that point, it doesn't matter what happens. Yeah. I've got my clean photos. I know I've got a photo of all of them looking nice. I know I've got a photo of all the boys, the girls, and their individuals with the bride and groom. So that I know I've already secured all of my clean photos. After that, we can do whatever we want. We can like pop champagne, pour champagne into people's mouths. That's when we throw the groom up in the air. That's when we get like real messy, like bumping photos. If I can talk them into a human pyramid or something, we can do that. That's normally when the shoeies and stuff come out as well. Like it all happens in that like 20 minutes, and then I tell them to fuck off, like go back up there. And then the bride and the groom are already at peak excitement because we've had so much fun. We just smash out a couple more kissy photos, walk down here, come and like we'll get some like ring of fire or whatever, and then we're done. Everybody's had fun. They only remember that the photo session was the fun one. They don't remember the family photo section where we had to stand still. They're like, oh, remember when we took the bridal party photos and like all we did was fuck around? Like, that's what they remember, even though they've got their nicer photos that happened before.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a cool strategy. I might have to do a little implementation on that. I usually just try and get them all like one shot, have fun, but I don't do throwing. I've only had one groomsman do the throwing. I'm not there yet.
We do it at most weddings, and a lot of the time we throw the bride as well. The only person that has a veto on a wedding day that can say no to a photo is the bride. Because a lot of times we'll find that, like, you know, we get everybody together, energy's really, really high, and the whole bridal party is, like, telling the bride to do something, and you can see she's kind of reserved. I'll always step in and be like, hey, just a heads up, you're the only person that can say no. Like, you're in the white dress. Even though, like, the bridesmaids might be going, like, come on, yeah, let's pick you up. If she's, like, looks hesitant at all, I'm like, you've got the veto. Like, you can say whatever you want. If you say no, we're not doing it. Yeah. And then they say no, and then I'll quickly go into something else and I'll pick on somebody else so nobody's like, oh, she said no. We just like snap into something else. That way she's happy, I'm advocating for my bride, but also like we're still going to try to keep that energy level up. Even I don't want her to be uncomfortable at all.
Yeah.
Justin, you run Aftershoot. It saves everybody's life forever. It's probably the best. Well, it's not probably. It is the best AI culling and editing software that exists. Where can people find you if they want to find you other than Aftershoot? You tell us all of your things and what you're most excited about for the next 3 months of your life. I mean, I don't know how you're going to compete with Disneyland, but I'd like to hear that.
So you can find me on the internet. I'm J. Benson Photography, but you'll find me perusing the Aftershoot community quite a bit, obviously, and you'll see me in all the tutorial videos and all of that fun stuff. Most exciting thing for me coming up in the next 3 months, I actually have a 2-week window where I'll be teaching in Paris and then in Ibiza. So we'll have a couple workshops back to back in France and Ibiza. So that's probably what I'm most excited for. I love sitting down and talking and teaching, and I'm so happy to hear that even if you don't remember what I said, you at least have me like on your shoulder, like, Josh, set it in the middle.
What would Justin do? What would Justin do? I remember like a lot of it, but it's just like there's little specifics and stuff that I'm like, no, I know exactly what was it.
There was a lot of information.
There was a lot of red wine that holiday too. I keep every time I tell my wife like, no, like Peru was a work trip. I was there for a work trip. She's like, do you want me to show you the photo of you doing the worm drunk at a wedding? And I was like, no. We don't need to look at that video. It was a work trip. We were on a work trip. I was there for work.
Yep.
Fantastic, Justin.
You did work.
I did work.
You did amazing photos.
Yeah. I only took next to none of my gear.
Yeah.
but that's okay. That was all Sandra. She saved me. She gave me a 51 too.
Nice.
That's my get out of jail free card. Thank you, Justin.
Thank
you are
you, Josh.
a beautiful,
Amazing.
handsome man, and I love everything about your body.
Thank you.
That's dope.
You as well.
So good. Thank you so much for watching. I've just rewatched everything as I've been editing it. I just love that conversation with Justin. Like, there's so much to be learned. He has so much knowledge on all things flash photography and photography in general, being that he's been in the game for 16 years. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you give Justin a follow. Make sure you say that you came from Tog Talk. And if you want to come on Tog Talk, you're more than welcome to come on. This is an open forum where anybody can come and have a chat wherever you are at in your photography business. You're more than welcome to come and have a chat here. I just feel like no matter where you're at in your business, whether you've been in the game for 3 months, whether you've been in the game for 30 years, you've always got something that you can teach somebody else, because there may be somebody, you may be 2 steps ahead of somebody else, and you may have a bit of information that you can help somebody behind you get that next step forward and take that next step in their business. That might just be that little tipping point that they need to, go full time, earn money doing what they love. So thanks so much for watching or listening to Tog Talk. Hope you really enjoyed it. Next time, we're talking to Wes. He was a military photographer. He's done photojournalism, and now he takes some of the most ridiculous engagement and wedding photos I've ever seen. He also climbs mountains for photos. He'll do like a 3-hour engagement shoot. That's a great episode. That's coming out next week. Until then, I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Love ya.